In this video, I'm going to explain to you chapter 6H. So chapter 6H is our last exercise of chapter 6, okay? And it's all about speed. So you can find this on page 376 to 377 of your textbook. Now, it's important to have a definition of speed, and whenever I'm talking about speed, we're just talking about how fast an object travels, and that object can really be anything. It could be a car, a bike, it could even be a snail. Often we're concerned with constant speed, so if the speed of an object does not change over time, so what speed is it traveling constantly? And one thing you might think of when you're thinking about constant speed is cruise control, okay, in a car. The other alternate is average speed. And so when you're in a car, think about you're not necessarily traveling at the same speed every time. You're accelerating sometimes, which means you're increasing your speed, and you're decelerating, which means you're decreasing your speed. So think about it when you're traveling 80 kilometers an hour, okay, in an 80 zone, compared to you'll slow down when you get to a stop sign, or you might be going through a school zone and only going 40 kilometers an hour. So just say you're in the car with somebody and you've been in the car for maybe half an hour. There's periods of time where you're traveling 80 kilometers an hour. Then there's periods of time where you've been traveling maybe 40 kilometers an hour. What we do is we take our acceleration and deceleration, we work out the average speed, okay? Now, the average speed formula is given here, and this is really important, okay? So S stands for the average speed, D stands for the distance traveled, and T stands for the time taken, okay? And it's organized into this really nice triangle here where you've got D over ST. So if you remember this triangle here, you can work out any problem. Now, we have a type of problem, and you will need to work out the average speed or the distance traveled or the time taken. So you need to pay attention. What is the question asking you? Is it asking you for average speed, distance traveled, or time taken? Once you work out what the problem is telling you, it'll often give you the other two pieces of information. So if it asks you to find out the average speed, it will give you the distance over time, and the distance and the time traveled. If you want to work out the distance traveled, it will give you the speed and it will give you the time, okay? If it wants you to work out the time taken to travel, it will give you the distance and it will give you the speed. Now, notice here in my triangle, when I'm trying to work out average speed, now my triangle is the same, DST. I just have D and I divide that by T. Whereas if I'm trying to find the distance traveled, the triangle is the same as above, DST. I just go speed multiplied by time. Or if I want time traveled, I've got D at the top of my triangle divided by average speed on the bottom, okay? The other thing is you've got to be careful with units when you're working out speed problems, and the most common units are meters per second or kilometers per hour, and sometimes you'll be required to convert units. So just remember and pay